Going into Avengers Endgame, many of us believed this would be the last time we got to see Tony Stark. We usually love being right, but we have to admit this time kind of stung. Sure, Robert Downey Jr.'s contract may have been up, but in reality this scene was foreshadowed for ages, and we love how it played out. We'll explain why we think Tony Stark unlocked the good ending even if he didn't survive the events of Endgame. When we first met Tony in 2008's Iron Man, it was clear that he has a rather high opinion of himself. Coupled with nearly limitless resources, it seemed like confidence was the least of his problems. But yet so many of his actions during his time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe have been motivated by his fear, and not just fear, but some very specific ones that Thanos basically personifies. During the movie Iron Man 3, we learned Tony was having anxiety attack and suffering from PTSD symptoms in the aftermath of the Battle of New York. And in Avengers Age of Ultron, we learned his fears of aliens raining from the sky had driven him to create Ultron. But while the Chitauri are undeniably terrifying, that wasn't at the heart of Tony's fears. When Scarlet Witch caused him to have a vision in Age of Ultron, we learned Tony's greatest fear was really feeling powerless and being unable to save those he cares about. For someone who loves to push others away, Tony fears being alone, and is capable of deeply caring for others. On the flip side, we have Thanos, who wants nothing more than to wipe out half of all life in the universe. According to Gamora, that's all he's ever wanted to accomplish. While he does believe it's for the greater good, we've also seen that he's not above sacrificing someone he loves in order to achieve this goal. Losing a loved one is Tony's worst nightmare, but Thanos threw his favorite daughter off a cliff without a second thought. The connection between these two characters is even highlighted in Avengers Infinity War, when they face off against one another. Thanos recognizes Tony's brilliance and notes that it can be a burden rather than a blessing at times to be cursed with knowledge. Even as Thanos is getting ready to destroy Tony, he remarks, "I hope they remember you." And he didn't even say it sarcastically, which is impressive. It's clear that Thanos sees what he and Tony have in common, and genuinely hopes his foe is remembered despite the fact that they're on opposite sides of a pretty important issue. Thanos believes the ends justify the means, and that's why we see him doing such terrible things and feeling little to no remorse for the most part, Gamora notwithstanding. But Tony carries all of his failures with him and tries constantly to be better. When he learned the impact his warmongering had in Iron Man, he changed his ways. But Tony's desperation to keep the world safe and encase it in a suit of armor has backfired. We saw him sacrifice freedom for security in Captain America: Civil War, and then there's the whole Ultron thing. If Thanos is a neglectful parent, then Tony Stark is definitely an overprotective one. But they're both driven by the urge to protect others. In Endgame, we see he had really taken on the whole father thing, but was still driven by his fear of loss and being unable to protect others. The whole reason he got involved with time travel shenanigans was to have another chance to save Peter Parker. Over his time in the MCU, Tony has gained the ability to examine his own behavior and realize when he's made a mistake. Even though he and Steve Rogers were on opposite sides in Civil War, Tony tells him that resentment is toxic, and he hopes that they can move forward. Tony's willing to make sacrifices to save others, something Steve accuses him of being unwilling of doing in the Avengers. However, despite seeing the devastation he caused, Thanos remained more adamant than ever that he was doing the right thing, and that all of his actions were justified. In Infinity War, he admitted with tears in his eyes that his goal had cost him everything, and he has no regrets. When he was destroyed the first time, it didn't even feel like a victory, because we all know he had already won. The stories of Thanos and Tony Stark have so many parallels that they ended up facing off against one another in Avengers Endgame. Back in the Avengers, Steve Rogers told Tony he wasn't anything special under his suit of armor. Then in Endgame, we see Tony Stark facing his greatest fear and having the opportunity to save everyone at the cost of his own life. And he doesn't hesitate. As soon as he realizes what he has to do, he uses the Infinity Stones, defeating Thanos at the cost of his own life. It was more than just an awesome movie moment. It was a tribute to all of the years of action, adventure, and character building we've seen since the movie Iron Man. Steve once accused Tony of just hiding behind his Iron Man suit, but Tony proved that the person in the suit is worthy of being called a hero. He is Iron Man, just like he proclaimed at the end of his first standalone movie. He's not someone like Thanos who believes he's a completely infallible being who's better than everyone else. Tony knows that inside that Iron Man suit of his, he's just a squishy human being like anyone else. But unlike most people, he's willing to make the hard choices and sacrifices necessary to be a hero. What do you think about the journey Tony Stark has had through the MCU and how it ended? Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and don't forget to click subscribe for more great videos from us here at CBR. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.